Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey guys, I'm Nariman Hamden, and this is Driven Unscripted Success podcast. We have another awesome guest on today. We have Nick Bobzien, and Nick has been in the real estate business for over 20 years. Pretty impressive realtor, if I say so myself, as a fellow realtor. He is a real estate agent in Naples. He's been in Florida since 2005. He's closed over 440 transactions, totaling nearly $200 million in sales volume. He got his broker's license in 2017. He was the president of the Naples-area Board of Realtors in 2023. He was also awarded the 2024 Realtor of the Year Award. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good. Thank you for taking the time to come on. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to having you on because you are clearly well-versed in the Southwest Florida market, and it's quite the yo-yo right now, to say the
One way to
least.
put it.
Yeah,
That's one
so
way to
it's
put it,
definitely
for sure.
readjusting, that's for sure. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your business and what you do and what your niche is?
So I've been licensed realtor in Naples since 2005. I got my broker's license in 17. I'm still just in sales. I'm not a managing broker or anything like that, but I wanted to get the license just for the added experience, the added knowledge, stuff like that, and kind of think it helps overall with being more professional within the profession and everything as well. So it's been a great run, 20 plus years now, and not looking to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, you're rocking it, being the top agent here. So you're putting me to shame, that's for sure. So so why don't you give us a little scenario of how do you deal with taking risks, and is there a time when you did take a risk, it really paid off for you?
Taking a risk. So, I mean, in all honesty, I think just getting into real estate. I was a golf pro prior to, from 03 to 09, so I was doing both for a while there. But when I got my license in 05, everything was good. I was kind of doing both. I was working at the golf course full time, which was good to keep health insurance and benefits and stuff. And I had 3 young kids. And in 2009, I just got so busy going into that summer of 09, and business was picking up really good for me. And 4 years into it at that point, and I really had to make the decision of, it's either go into this thing full time or continue to almost hold myself back.
Sure.
But it was definitely a big jump at that point to cut the ties, cut the cord loose, so to speak, with the health insurance and the guarantee, payday. And I was working 3 days, basically full time to get 30 hours and keep the health insurance and stuff. But like I said, when, August of 2009, I went into it, jumped right in and full steam ahead and never looked back. So it was definitely a risk, 3 young kids under the age of 5 at the time. And it was scary to think that way and to do it, but I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I kind of pushed myself to do it, and
Sure.
it's been a great run. So
Yeah, it definitely paid off for you, to say the least. So well done. So what's a skill or habit that doesn't get enough credit for contributing to your success?
I would say time management. I think that's, especially when you work for yourself, as realtors, we really don't have bosses, so to speak. And the managing brokers are there as mentors and guidance and stuff like that. But really, you're working for yourself all the time, and you have to have the dedication and be responsible enough to do everything. But at the same time, time management. It's so easy to get distracted with whether it be social media stuff, whether it be friends asking you to go hang out for a little bit, whether it be happy hour time or weekends and stuff like that. It's easy to kind of derail yourself from things, and I think time management is key. It's actually a very vital thing, I think, in any entrepreneurship type of business that you're doing. So I would say it's something I
Absolutely.
don't think about it as much either. So
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention you have to be extremely organized in
Yeah.
in this business and staying on top of everything. Because as you know, you get thrown curveballs left and right. And
Nonstop.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
And also, I mean, especially with real estate, there's even when you have a deal that's pending, and I mean, there's so many people that have their hands or have an effect on that deal that you're relying on to get closed. And like I said, curveballs come left and right, whether it be property didn't appraise, whether it be inspector found something that others might have missed, or something that we need to make sure the buyer's aware of. Title companies making some changes, surveyors, everything. There's so many people involved in trying to get a deal closed. So it's curveballs are definitely thrown at you quickly, and
That's
you have to adapt real fast to figure out how to get through them and how to keep the deal together and get it to close.
absolutely. You have to, it's constantly thinking on your feet and as you
Yeah.
go, and kind of just fly, kind of like, it's almost like being like Peter Pan. You're just flying by the seat of your pants majority of the time. You're like, all right, here we go.
Exactly. Exactly. For sure.
So obviously staying on top of any field is tough, and especially in this, being a realtor in this market. So what's something exciting in the horizon, um, obviously on your end of this industry, and how are you getting ready for it? So what do you got planned?
Oh, I mean, right now the market is soft. Just it's a goofy market. I mean, I talk to a lot of realtors all the time, and a lot of experienced realtors that have been doing this longer than I have, and every one of them saying the same thing. It's a market that we can't even predict what's happening, what's going to happen. Every economists keep saying that the interest rates are going to start coming down in the second half of the year, and hopefully they do, because I do think that we have a lot of buyers that are sitting on the fence and are kind of waiting to see what happens with those things, because they're ready to do something, but they're not on a time crunch where they have to get something done right now. So I think they're patient. And patience is working out for them. I think we also have a
Sure,
lot of sellers that want to sell, are trying to sell their properties, but they might be a little more motivated to sell if the interest rates are down, because if they're selling a property where they've got a mortgage of fixed rate of 3%, a lot of them are hesitant to take a low price, or a what you might be deemed to be a below market value sale price, because they're going to go into a higher interest rate potentially. And so I think if the rates are coming down, it's going to make them feel more comfortable and confident. So I think right now the with the change that we had over the last since August, with the buyer broker agreements being required and stuff like that, it didn't really seem to have as much of an impact as I think a lot of realtors expected it to have.
sure,
Uh, in all honesty, it really is. It's talking to your buyer and explaining to them the value of what you do. And there's a lot that we do. So when
sure,
you sit down and you start thinking about it, every single task, that comes into play, there's hundreds. So, explain to the buyers those situations. I think I've never had an issue with buyers and sellers, paying a fair compensation. I think they all feel that it's worth it, and you just have to sometimes explain things a little more in detail. But nobody really likes talking about money anyway, so I think that's always the concern, with an agent talking to the
sure,
buyer, what they're worth, what they should be paid, and stuff like that. But I think buyers still want to have their representation, and it's been proven. I mean, a lot of deals are still closing with buyers are being represented, and they have no problem with the compensation being paid, or having the seller pay it. So that it didn't, like I said, that change didn't affect as much as I think a lot of realtors thought it would. But
I agree.
it's still out there. But I think, like I said, as you move into the next 6 months to 12 months, I think the interest rates are going to play a role. The market is kind of correcting itself a little bit, but I think it almost feels like we're just past the pushing point where it's ready to start making a shift back to a stable, good market, where I think we're going to get some activity picking up, oddly enough, in the summertime.
Sure, sure. Which is typically the opposite. Summertime
Right.
is usually the downtime, and everyone's gone, and
Yeah.
it's tumbleweed flowing through here, so nobody's really looking at real estate or even wanting to
You
be down here.
can
It's so hot and
walk into a
swampy.
restaurant anytime you want and sit down.
Right.
No
Yeah,
problem.
you'll be treated like VIP all
Yeah.
summer long.
Some of them you feel like you have the
Funny.
restaurant to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, staying on top of any field is really tough. So, what do you do different than any other than the other realtor to continue to be successful and competitive?
I would say one thing I do is every morning. I read, Florida Realtors puts out an email with some top articles and stuff. I take a look at those. stay up to date with some of the top stuff from like Inman. I spend a little bit more so just kind of headlines and maybe skimming the article kind of thing to see what's happening. I spend about 15 minutes a day on social media, through Facebook and Instagram, just kind of seeing, what's happening with real estate news out there. Anything, I don't watch the news on TV, so I feel if
Sure.
there's anything happening worldwide or locally or something I need to know, I'll find it pretty quickly, just scrolling through Instagram or through Facebook. But I try to just get, kind of keep tabs on what's happening briefly in the mornings. And then, throughout the day, I network a lot with other realtors, with title companies, stuff like that, who have a pulse on the market. What is the market doing? What are they seeing for realtors? What are they seeing in their area, especially those that farm or, really work specific communities and developments? I'll always reach out to them, just kind of say, hey, what are you seeing? Agents in my office that I know work with a lot of buyers, I'll check with them, say, how is your activity comparatively speaking, and are you seeing an uptick in the market? And
Sure.
I'm at least daily, there's several realtors I'm always speaking with, and just kind of networking with them and getting a pulse of
Yeah.
what's with them. And same thing on the listing side. Are you getting a lot of showings on your listings and stuff like that? And of course, I'm always going to pop in. I've got a buyer looking for this. Do you have anything that might work, or do you know of anything? And or just the opposite. I've got this listing that we're trying to move. We just lowered the price, and it's amazing how much gets done that direction versus just searching the MLS and finding a property and going to show it. So there's a lot more,
Yeah.
a lot more that can be done, especially in 2020, 21, and even beginning of 2022. The networking with other realtors was vital. There's so many deals I put together that were non-MLS, and it was just because it was talking to other realtors, and they told me what they
Sure.
had coming up, or told them what I had coming up, or what buyers were looking for. And I said I probably had 6, 7 deals put together with not even on MLS. And so it's networking, I think, is vital in the business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, just sitting there and going through MLS, I mean, good gosh, there's so much inventory out there that,
Yeah.
I mean, you would be there
It
for
is.
a good week
Yeah,
before,
and it's hard to search through all of it.
yeah, I
So
mean, it's a bunch of needles in a haystack, and with the amount of inventory we have on. So yeah, I totally understand the networking. So do you have a team? Do you lead a team, or are you
uh,
solo?
I joke there's three of us. It's me, myself, and I. So we're
Okay.
all three of us a team. But no, so I basically I do everything solo. I mean, I've got my partners kind of thing that I work with as far as like top mortgage people, attorneys,
Sure.
inspectors, stuff like that I kind of do consider to be my team. But as far as the real estate side of it, I'm the only realtor with it. So.
Got it. And do you just stick to Naples, or are you up and down the entire Southwest Florida coast?
I would say probably 90% of my business is in Naples. Some of it leaks up into Bonita, Estero, maybe South Fort Myers, and also a little bit down to Marco, but pretty much, 85, 90% of it's in Naples. So,
Sure, sure. And are you seeing a difference between Naples, as opposed to Fort Myers or Estero, as far as as far as the market goes with price? Well, obviously pricing is a big factor, but as far as the inventory, what's the difference that's going on in the market there versus here? Are they having the same issues? Like, what do you, in your opinion, in your experience, what are you noticing?
yeah, no, I think the inventory all over Florida is really up. And I think, Fort Myers, Estero, Bonita is no different than Naples. I think what we're seeing, even the same thing with the condo market's very slow, sluggish right now. And I think that's happening all over the state from everything I'm reading and from all the agents I talk to. And I don't think Fort Myers and Estero Bonita is any different than Naples as far as the inventory
Sure.
goes. Pricing, and it's always been the same way. You can get the same property. Pulte will build in Naples, a property that is $500,000, and you go exact same property in Estero is 425 or 415.
Right.
It's so yeah, you're always going to have the difference in value there, but at the same time, I think if you're open to where you want to be, I mean, you can definitely save some money, if in those
Sure.
situations. But the market overall, I think, is very similar both ways. And over 20 years of doing this and talking to a lot of different economists, and specifically Lawrence Yun with NAR. Back in 2023 as president of NABOR, had the opportunity to sit down, have lunch with him, and talk to him. And And one thing about him, he's always in Naples and Collier County. Same thing with Loudoun County outside of DC, and also Orange County in California. Those three counties just are their own bubble. They're their own different little things, and they a lot of times they're actually leading what's happening. So if you watch those counties specifically, if going back to tail end of 22, our inventory here in Naples started creeping up faster than or before other parts of the state, including Benito Estero, Fort Myers. So all of a sudden our inventory was creeping up, and we're up in starting to get close to 3,000 units, and then 4,000 units. So
Sure.
now we're up in the 7,500, I think, range. So
Right. Yeah. And the condos.
maybe creeping just under 7,000 right now, but heading into the summertime. But our inventory crept up before other parts of Florida, and I think you're starting to see that around the nation. We're starting to some places their inventory is starting to increase. And
Yeah, and I feel like as you said, it started creeping up in 2022, right after Hurricane Ian, and the FEMA and insurance rates going up, and then you had the collapse of the building in Surfside, which ended up changing all the codes for construction, and these condos need to be this way, which brought up the HOA fees and whatnot, and a lot of people, I think that's why the market's so saturated with the condos right now is, I think the associations or the homeowners associations are having a hard time figuring out how to cap it and regulate that fee for their owners without them eating it, and they're just not able to do that, unfortunately, because things just keep going up and up, and they just keep getting more demands as to what they need to change and structurally,
Yeah. And also, precursor to the hurricane, we already had the interest rates starting to climb, April, May of 22. So the interest rates were already climbing, which kind of started to stable the market, if you will, and kind of slow us down. And then when the hurricane hit, the inventory just started creeping up from there. And like you said, I agree with 100%. Condo associations are struggling with different fees and how to properly set reserves and stuff. And it's not a condo, but a homeowner association I was dealing with yesterday. It's a villa, so they have shared roofs, but they're still a homeowner association, and they're going to be about $55,000 funded on a $212,000 re-roof job. They're so underfunded, and where do you start with that? I mean, I think they're trying to do a better job of properly funding everything so that you don't have these massive special assessments. But unfortunately, it's all around Florida with some of these things.
Sure. And then I recently read that, the Trump administration announced that they're going to cut back on FEMA coming up for next year. What are your thoughts on how that's going to affect our market as well?
You know what? I'm not sure yet. That's because I just heard that, the funding was going to be a cut, and I don't know.
I feel like more homes are going to come up on the market.
I mean, I know, some of the things that, with Florida realtors that we've been fighting is different, with the 50% rule and how long that lasts and stuff like that. If you do you can do some work in year 1 versus year 2 versus year 3 and stuff like that. So I know Florida realtors were trying to fight that to get that more stable and beneficial to the homeowner who may not be able to afford to bring their entire property up to code, but they have to make some repairs to their property to make it livable. So some of the regulations I think are too strict, and that so it'll be interesting as far as how FEMA, the lack of FEMA funding, the lack of is going to change things. It'll especially in a hurricane-ridden area.
Sure, and I feel like it's possible that with the lack of them cutting the funding for places like Texas, anywhere that's in a natural disaster area, and especially us. The insurance rates are probably going to go up again because of it. More homeowners are going to panic and throw their homes on the market. You would think because a lot of them are going to be scared to knowing that they're not going to be, insurance might not be able to cover it, or they can't afford the insurance, they can't afford the repairs. So it's going to be interesting to see.
It's exactly. It's another curveball. So it's just
total curveball. It's like we think like Yeah, it's like, well, we got excited that, okay, there's 10 new insurance companies that just came to the state. Yes. And then it's like, oh, guess what? We're going to cut FEMA funding. It's like, oh no, now what? It's like, it doesn't even give us a moment to settle into the first curveball that came before you get
Yeah.
hit with another one. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. So,
Sure.
how do you encourage yourself and your team of three, me, myself, and I, to to keep moving on and thinking outside the box and bringing new ideas?
I, I'm heavily involved in Florida Realtors, and I think that, like I said, with the networking with other agents around the state, I'm always getting ideas. Every August they do a rebar camp, which is just like, quick little 10 to 15 minute sessions on different topics, and the topics are, there's 300 different topics that they'll start with, and then they narrow them down and, kind of condense them and stuff. And it's just a fun day of quick idea thinking and discussions and networking. And then, 15, 20 minutes later, you switch to the next one. So I actually get a lot of ideas that direction. My business it's all repeat and referral. So
Sure.
I don't do online lead generations. I don't do the open houses. I don't do anything like that to generate with new type of buyers. All my stuff is repeats and referrals. So I'm really more focused on, continuing to stay in contact with them, different ways of staying in contact with them, variety, kind of keep it different and stuff. What I do a monthly e-newsletter to all of them, so they're at least getting that once a month, and then a few other different ways of reaching out to them, throughout the year. And I'm also not one of the pushy ones that's going to ask for anything. Hey, if you know somebody, call me. I don't do that. I just want
Sure.
to, in my mind, I just look at to try to keep at the top of their mind when somebody starts talking real estate. I just want Nick Bobzien to pop up in their mind. So
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
how I do everything. And like I said, but there's definitely different software systems and ideas. Um,
Sure. And just even as simple as, knowing their special anniversaries, their birthdays, and being able to reach out and be like, hey, happy birthday. Hey,
Yep.
happy Father's Day. It's those little things that go a long way,
Yeah,
is what I've learned. And people genuinely like when somebody reaches out and thinks about
very
them,
much.
and
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing with my buyers when they close, I put in my phone, that date with the anniversary. So every year,
yeah.
I wish them a happy home anniversary from when they
Oh, that's
purchased.
great.
So, like I said, in addition to the birthdays, the regular anniversaries, and it's just that additional touch that you can get to them and stuff. So,
Sure, sure. So let me ask you, has there been a book, a podcast, or a mentor that's really changed your outlook or approach?
I read a lot of Robert Kiyosaki business side of books. I think I've read every single one of them so far. I love them. Not on the political side of things, but the Donald Trump books. I love reading those from the business side of everything he did growing
Sure.
up, and how he, got where he is prior to 2015, 2016. Another friend of mine here in Naples actually wrote a book called The Beekeeper. It's all about
Okay.
leadership and stuff like that. And back in 23, I actually gave that to all of my board of directors to read and stuff like that. It's a really good book on leadership. And he actually wrote another one called The Stargazer, I think it's called,
Okay.
which is about
Write that down.
team building and stuff like that. So good books, good, leadership type of stuff, which is things that I'm always looking into. I'm always on more of the business side of reading it when I do. I'm not as much into a,
A
fiction
novel.
reading and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just
Not into reading a
yeah,
romantic novel.
I'm no, I'm not big into reading as it is. I mean, growing up, I'd read sports magazines all the time and stuff like that, but I never got
Sure.
into much other reading and but nowadays, I mean, I'll do a lot more the business side of books and stuff like that, different um, entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So get an
Sure.
idea, different thought process and stuff like that. So
Yeah. So how do you tackle learning new things, especially stuff that's outside of your comfort box or comfort zone?
really tackle it. I mean, I take the approach of, really what is this? Where's the value in my business going to be with this? And if even if it's something that I'm going to find to be difficult to learn and stuff like that, if it's something that will help the business or has some benefits to it, you just gotta stick with it, and you can't give up on them early, and you got to learn them. just no different than all the realtors down in Florida having to learn how to use the buyer broker agreements.
Sure. All
It's just
10,723 of us.
24. Yeah.
It's almost like they're
Uh,
just getting their license out of a Cracker Jack box these
yeah.
days.
And the other thing, I mean, there's 20 other states that have already been using those as a requirement.
Sure.
So it's just they've been there. It's just in Florida it wasn't something we did here. So learning that stuff is whether you like it or not, sometimes things you just have to adapt and things you have to learn and implement into your business and stuff like that. So whether it be new technology, whether it be new forms, whether it be new processes, policies, whatever it is,
Right.
just get to stay with it. And it's I don't look at the short term. I look at the long term goal of it, and it kind of helps
Absolutely.
keep me focused on getting through it to the long part, all the way through.
Absolutely. And ultimately 99% of the time it makes the process much easier
Yep.
for both sides, for both the buyer or seller and for us. You know what I mean? Because it's all laid out in black and white. Like personally, I didn't have any issues with the buyer broker agreement.
Yeah.
It's I know what my value is and how I can help you and I'm what I can provide. So it wasn't hard for me to explain that, and my
Yeah.
buyers were they were receptive and they actually liked it. They like to have that up front, like,
Yep.
okay, so I don't have to wonder, what the commission's going to be, what this is going to be like. No, there
Yep.
it is. And
Yep.
most likely we'll try and get it from the seller's side, but if not, you have to pay
Yeah.
for the service that I provided. And,
Yeah. And like you, I mean, and again, because the business is repeat and referral for me, I haven't had any issues at all with any of my
sure,
buyers signing it. But at the same time, any of them that even, I help do a lot of different instruction at teaching at the board as well as through our broker office and stuff like that. Help out the agents with the forms and stuff. And because we have these additional addendums, you can actually show the buyer, look, here's how we're going to ask the seller to pay for it, and here's how we're going to basically make any offer you want to submit contingent upon the seller paying for it or the listing
sure,
broker paying for it. And if they're not willing to, at least you have, Mr. Barry, you have the ability at that point to decide, yes, I still want to buy this property for that amount of money and I'm willing to pay your services for it, or nope, let's go find another different property that, the services can be paid by the seller or by the listing broker. So I don't have to come out of
sure.
pocket. So, I mean, the buyers are still
There's
in full
options.
control. Yeah, exactly. And that's explaining everything to them on how how everything is going to get paid is just as important as explaining to them what your value is and why you should be paid what you want to charge.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, well, it sounds like your business is going well and everything else. So, you know, sorry, got lost here on my question.
Yeah.
So, my question is to you. So, as you're looking, towards the future, I'm wondering how or if you have invested in passive income. So, what's your source of passive income? What's things that you invest in out,
Yeah,
on the side?
my side is obviously most realtors always think that you should be in investing in real estate.
Sure.
Um, my side of it, I've dealt with so many landlords and tenants and stuff, and I don't see myself having enough patience to go through that process
Sure.
and manage it and stuff. And so my investment side of it is actually in precious metals. So I invest in a lot of
Oh,
silver and stuff like that, and things that I consider tangible that I can hold, and things that I deem to have value in the future and stuff like that. And I think have a little bit more safety of a value in the future as well. So just like anything else, I mean, it's no different than anything else that you want to invest in. Things can go up and down, but overall, I just feel that precious metals, more so silver and gold, I think are just in my safety and growth.
sure. So as we're wrapping up our meeting, what do you have planned for the next 6 to 12 months?
Business wise,
Both?
ah, I'm heading fishing this weekend, deep sea fishing out of the Keys this weekend with some
Oh, that's
friends.
fantastic.
I'm going on my sister's 50th birthday trip in July. We're doing a 12-day trip over to Amsterdam and Iceland and stuff like that, with
Oh, that should be
some
nice.
food being part of it. And then through the summer, I mean through the fall, just back at it. I think like I said, I think the market's going to be picking up here and in Naples, and I think it's those that are ready and prepared for it are going to excel with it. And
Sure.
I think it's just, again, I mean, I don't even think you need the interest rates to go down a lot. I just think you need them to start trending in the
Yes.
downward direction to get buyers to start making commitments and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
because they're not
you can all, and
eager
as
to do anything right now, and they don't have to, is where.
yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think the prices are starting to stabilize. I know some people think that they're still going to go down a little bit more, and they might, but I think overall they're feels like they're more stabilized over the last month or two now. And I mean, as they always say, you marry the home, but you date the rate. You can always refinance the rate. So if you
Absolutely.
it's 7.25 right now that you don't love, and guess what? In 18 months or 10 months or whatever it is, when you see the rates in the high fives or something, you refinance it. At least you're in the home that you wanted to be into for
Sure.
that time period, and you're paying it down all the while. You can refinance it later. So
Right.
I think
And I
buyers are going to
mean,
start to see.
yeah, and not to mention, with the price drops left and right, it's like seize that opportunity and
Yeah,
find that investment for the right price. Even though the rates are a little high, like you said, you can
yeah,
the great deal you're getting on the home itself is amazing in itself. And yeah, maybe the rate's not great, but like you said, the rates are going to go down eventually within the
yeah.
next year, and then
And
just
I think
refinance it.
Yeah, and I think through these summer months right now, if sellers are going to be motivated and willing to take less than what they really in their minds think they should or want
Sure.
to take, it's going to be the summer market. So, for the next probably through September, because once you get to October, sellers are going to start probably being more firm and say, well, I've got season 2 months away, and they're going to start, probably locking down a little bit tighter and not be as negotiable to try to sell the
Yeah.
property. And I think by then we're also going to start to see the rates coming down, and hopefully, definitely by then. And I
Yeah.
think we're going to start to see the market have that little bit of a shift to it. So
Yeah, and I think that the sellers are the initial shock of
yeah,
what they thought their home was worth compared to what where the market's at is tapering. So
yeah,
they're swallowing it now and absorbing
yeah,
it and coming to terms with it and understanding it. So they're more inclined now to list their home at the right price as opposed to what the market was 2 years ago, you
yeah.
know?
I can tell you, like when I'm comping out, a listing to see where to come in on the listing price of things, I'm only going back 60 days on comps on sales. I'm actually
Yeah.
looking more at what is active on the market now. Like, really, what is the competition out there? Because you know
Sure.
the market has made that shift, and I think we're seeing it there because we're not in 2021 pricing, and
Yeah.
sellers have it took sellers a year to figure that out because you go back in 2024, a lot of overpriced listings were there, and sellers were just still stuck on what their neighbors sold their property for in 21 and 22, and like, well,
And
mine's
yeah,
still the same, and it's not. It's just
right.
there was a correction, like it or
Absolutely.
hate
And I mean, and you got to
it.
look, there was a pandemic going on, and
Yeah,
this was one of the few states that was open,
yeah,
and that's where the floodgates opened and everybody became a
yeah,
refugee from
yep,
another state, to sought refuge here. And and that's what rocked the market, skyrocketed everything. And it's like, no, this is actually what it's supposed to be,
yeah. And I think
so.
also a lot of talks with some of the other managing brokers around Naples that we in a sense we almost like borrowed from the future because so many buyers did end up retiring early or semi-retiring early, buying their retirement home early because of what was going on. And so I
Sure.
think it's almost like that's why there were so many sales in 2021 and beginning of 22 that instead of being kind of consistent through those months and through those years and into 23, 24, maybe even now 25, a lot of them just did everything a couple years early, so you kind of lost the buyer market, if you will, over these last 2 years because of it. They already did what they were looking to do.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they weren't going into the job place anymore. It was all remote. So people were like, well, since I'm working from home and living
Yeah,
here and it's all the same, then why not buy a massive or beautiful home, upgrade,
yeah.
and let's go down to Florida. Let's go here,
Live in the good weather. Yeah,
Right. I
absolutely.
mean, I'm working from
I'm like,
home. Yeah.
why freeze in my house when I can go south
Right.
and be comfortable and go to the beach?
I
So
know. I won't go past the border to past. I just won't leave Florida unless it's further south.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. I'm originally from Michigan, and I've had some friends reach out. They're
Oh.
like, "Oh, are you coming up this summer?" I'm like, "Me? No." I'm like, "You guys are welcome to come on down." I'm
Yeah,
like, "Florida's too good to me."
my passport's expired. I can't go that far.
Yeah, like nope. I'm in my own country. And that's
Yeah,
Florida.
yeah,
Well, thank
absolutely.
you so much for coming on. Oh, you
Thank
know
you for
what? I
having
do
me. I
have one more
appreciate it.
question. So,
Yes.
if there's a new agent breaking, trying to break into the massively saturated town of realtors,
Yeah.
what is a good tip or tips that you can give them some insight as to what they should do?
I would say, everyone talks about the sphere of influence, but what they need to do is really set up a good time management skills and don't forget your past customers. Stay in contact with them because they are the lifeblood of your business. I mean, the repeats and referrals um, absolutely can continue to happen. I treated every customer as if they were a family member, and sometimes to a detriment where I told buyers, I said, I don't think you should be paying this much for the property. I think we ought to try to go find something else. And sometimes it costs you a deal, and it ends up being 2 months later if they buy something. But I think if you just
Right.
treat everybody the way you would want to be treated, they'll be more apt to use you again when the time comes and also refer their friends to you. And so I think if you build your business starting out that way, to treat everybody, the golden rule, treat them the way you want to be treated. You'll
Absolutely.
have that repeat referral business will be there, and it's a great revenue stream if you choose to add the open houses and the lead generations and stuff like that to it as well. So but definitely start there. It's a lot easier to start there than it is to, 7, 8 years down the road, go back and try to regather everything. So start right away that way.
Absolutely. Speaking of open houses, what are your thoughts on open houses? They're making a comeback.
I think agents were forced to do open houses now. The sellers really wanted them because they wanted buyers in the door. But personally speaking, open houses do not sell the property. They're really for agents to try to pick up a buyer that's not working with the realtor. Agents to try to network with other neighbors and stuff like that. Maybe get a listing down the road, but it's not going to sell the property. And I tell my sellers, look, if you want them, we'll get them done. It's not a problem. But I'm kicking you out of the house for 3+ hours, and you're getting a lot of, 90% of the people come through are going to be your neighbors. And not
Right.
saying that
They
neighbors
just
aren't
want to
looking
see
to
what your
buy.
house looks like.
Yeah, but exactly. It's not that they're not looking to buy necessarily, but majority of them just want to see what the house looks like. What decorating
Yeah.
idea? Did you do any renovations?
Yeah.
See what it
Yeah.
looks like.
What's
Stuff. And
Sally's bedroom look like?
yeah, and in all
Yeah.
honesty, if a buyer's serious, they will schedule the appointment to come look at it when when the timing is good for them, and also when they actually are not rushed. They can take their time looking around. They don't have anybody else in there, kind of hovering over them and stuff like that. So, to me, that's where open houses just they don't sell the property. You might
Sure.
get leads off of them, you might get sales off them, but it's not gonna be the reason the property sells, in my opinion. So I mean, I
Sure.
think
And
actually.
I agree with that. I think open houses are a waste of time personally.
Yeah.
You sit there for 3, 4 hours, you got to put all these signs up, bring all this snacks
Yep.
in, and then you're lucky if you get a handful
Yeah.
of people to come through,
And
and they're
yeah,
just, not anything serious,
yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, back when I started, I mean, I was doing open houses and stuff, but I was doing the cold
Sure.
call and call the terminated and call the expired, to try to get the business going. But I mean, once it was up and running and stuff like that, after 5, 6 years, it I just felt there was really no reason. I mean, I was getting my cycle of repeat and referral
Sure.
going, and I kind of felt I was stable enough at that point to, in a sense, not really have to do, not babysit some of these leads that are 2 years away from doing anything and stuff like that. So it was
Yeah,
like,
absolutely. Yep. So
so
your message is nurture your friends and family in those and the buyers that come through that, just
stay in
even for
contact with your
just stay in
customers. Yeah.
contact. Yeah.
I mean, that is, as I tell every customer, look, this is, I'm working with you through to the closing and well beyond. And
Yeah.
it doesn't
It's a
stop
relationship.
at the closing table. It is exactly. You're
Sure.
building a
It's a
relationship.
relationship.
A lot of my customers are great friends of mine now, and
Yeah.
we got a lot, and just it started because of a phone call. Hey, a friend of mine knows you, and said you're the person to talk to for real estate in Naples. And next thing you know, it's like 5, 6 years down the road, we're great friends. So I
Yeah.
just treat everybody that way.
Exactly. like you said, treat them the way you want to be treated.
Exactly.
So if anyone wants to get a hold of you, how does one contact you?
Website is nickbobzien.com, Bobzien. My Facebook and Instagram is Nick Sells Naples. So pretty easy to find. Same thing on LinkedIn is Nick Sells Naples. So I'm out there. Quick Google. So
okay. Thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate you coming
Thank
on.
you.
It was very
I appreciate it.
insightful. All right,
Yeah,
guys,
thank
we'll
you.
see you next time. If you want to get a hold of Nick, you just heard it. LinkedIn, website, social media, just look him up. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.